Hey YouTube, hey subscribers, thanks for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to talk about something narcissists tend to do when they're backed into a corner, and it's actually a very effective strategy and technique for not only getting you to back down, but also for controlling the situation in the moment and in the long term. And what they do is something I call overcorrecting. The term overcorrect comes from driving, and as opposed to me explaining it to you, let's take a look at a quick video clip that explains overcorrecting while driving.
Today we're going to talk about one of the frequent causes behind fatal car accidents among seasoned and novice drivers alike. That is, veering off the road and then overcorrecting to try to return back to the road. The natural reaction when you veer off the road is to yank on the steering wheel to get back on the road and slam on the brakes. However, this can cause the car to roll over or veer sharply into oncoming traffic or some other obstacle. The results can be deadly. Everyone needs to be prepared for this situation, and new drivers should practice how to control the car if the car goes off the roadway. If this happens, with practice, the proper off-road recovery can be learned. The main thing to remember is not to panic. Knowing how to react to a situation before it happens is your best defense.
So that video has been heavily edited down to get to the main points of it, but basically overcorrecting is overreacting to a simple situation or a simple problem so strongly that it creates new problems and worse problems than the original problem itself. I'm going to use another example that a lot of you may not like, but it is the perfect example, and I've been watching it form for quite some time now. While the example itself stands alone, I hope you all are able to separate what I'm trying to demonstrate from the example. If experience has taught me anything, it's that people have a really tough time doing that. So that's fine. I've made peace with that, and I accept the fact that people are going to get tangled up in the example and not the point that I'm trying to pull out. But I'm going to go ahead and use this example anyway. When the Me Too movement first started, I was worried that this was going to happen, and turns out my fears and concerns were justified and validated. I came across an article that pretty much described what I was worried about was going to happen as a result of this movement, and as a result of the knowledge that I had of the people who the movement was directed towards. I knew they were going to do this, and I didn't have a good term for it at the time, but basically I knew that they were going to overcorrect on the situation and make it 10 times worse, to women basically saying we're not going to be harassed in the workplace or otherwise anymore. I knew they weren't going to go down easy, and I knew that they were going to do everything they could to blow the situation up and make it worse. It's already bad to begin with, but the overcorrection of it has actually made it 10 times worse. So I came across an article that was written by a man that goes into the details of this overcorrection. So let's read that article together. This article is from The Guardian. When men are afraid to interact with women at work, it harms the whole company, by Gene Marks. Hindering a female employee's advancement out of fears of your own behavior is impeding the growth of your organization. The caption under the picture reads, "Men do know what's appropriate and inappropriate. This is not rocket science." There's no arguing that the Me Too movement has helped many women in the workplace. Unfortunately, no less than 3 studies have recently shown that the efforts to ultimately eliminate gender discrimination and harassment are having negative effects for some women in the office as well. But there is another casualty here too, as the men who have failed to learn the lessons Me Too have taught us. Back in April 2018, a majority of the respondents, 55% men and 47% women, in a Pew Center research survey of 6,251 adults, said that the movement has made it harder for men to know how to interact with women in the workplace and to navigate workplace interactions. Sadly, only 28% thought that the movement will lead to more opportunities for women. Earlier this year, Sheryl Sandberg's organization Lean In published the results of its study of 5,000 U.S. adults, which examined the Me Too movement's impact on the workplace, and the news wasn't encouraging either. The survey found that 60% of male managers they asked were now uncomfortable doing common workplace activities with women such as mentoring, socializing, or having one-on-one meetings, a sharp increase from the previous year. A perturbed Sandberg said that she spoke to many male executives who said that they have been told not to put themselves in a position where they are alone with women, with many expressing an increased level of awkwardness traveling, having dinner, or even participating in one-on-one meetings with junior female colleagues. And now we have a new study due to be published by the University of Houston, also with discouraging results. The study found that men are now significantly more reluctant to interact with their female employees. Among the findings, as reported by The Guardian's Arwa Madawi, are that 27% of men avoid one-on-one meetings with female coworkers, 21% of men said they would be reluctant to hire women for a job that would require close interaction, such as business travel, and 19% of men would be reluctant to hire an attractive woman. Citing the study's authors who conclude that most men know what sexual harassment is, and most women know what it is, Madawi is clear about who's to blame. So there you go. Most men are perfectly aware of the difference between a friendly hug and a creepy hug, she writes. They are perfectly aware of what constitutes harassment and what doesn't, which makes you wonder why so many men are afraid to interact with women at work. As a middle-aged man, business owner, and manager, I must admit that Madawi is right. We do know how to behave. We do know when to keep our mouths shut. We do know what's appropriate and inappropriate, and the difference between a friendly and creepy hug. I avoid hugs altogether. We have daughters, wives, and significant others. We're quite aware of how we would like to see them treated. This is not rocket science. So when studies show that some men are reluctant to have meetings or travel or interact with a junior female colleague, that is 100% the fault of the man. What's missing from these studies is another causality of this behavior, the business owner or manager. That's the moron who didn't hire or promote a talented employee just because a working relationship with her would require close interaction. If you're that guy, then hindering a female employee's advancement out of fears of your own behavior is impeding the growth of your own company and the welfare of your other employees. Get help. Your real concern should be that she'll just up and leave you to join a more accommodating and smarter competitor. What the author has just outlined is the overcorrection that has taken place in response to Me Too. It's beyond childish and self-incriminating, and it also serves a secondary agenda of removing women from the workplace entirely and sending them back home, but we won't get into that in this video. Basically, overcorrection or overcorrecting is the narcissistic approach of being so offended by your no or so offended by your boundary that they honor your boundary or honor your no or your request by going above and beyond what's needed to fix the problem. So in the example that I just used, now I can't work with you at all. Now I can't be near you. I can't even be within the same vicinity as you. Now I can't travel with you. I can't be on an airplane with you. Absolutely nothing. I can't do anything with you now. I might not even hire you or promote you if it means we have to work closely with one another. Guys, you need to seek serious help. That is an overcorrection. As the author outlined in the article, it's not rocket science. Men and women know how to behave in the workplace in regard to what's creepy and what's not, what's over the line and what's not. However, we know that culturally, some things have been acceptable for a very long time that are now no longer acceptable. And it's not that they're no longer acceptable. They never really were acceptable. People just tolerated it for a long time. So in the spirit of that, I do think it's beneficial to have yearly training programs, annual programs that just outline, hey, this is what harassment is, this is what it looks like, don't do it. Because again, some people may have been raised a certain way to interact a certain way, and if they've never been challenged on it, then they may not know that it's wrong. Wild stretch, but it does happen. So I do believe in the education programs, but overall, it's a very simple fix. Hey, these are the inappropriate behaviors in the workplace. Don't engage in them and you'll be fine. Instead, though, the ones who are the most likely to engage in some of these inappropriate behaviors are the ones who are crying out and banging their fists on the desk and overcorrecting by now saying they don't want to have one-on-one meetings, which as a one-off, good. Most one-on-one meetings are a waste of time. Why don't we cut those out altogether? But back on topic, I can't be alone with you. I can't even be near you. And the question, like the author was posing, is why not? What is it that you feel like is going to happen? What do you feel like you're going to do? And a lot of men are afraid that they'll be accused of something that they didn't do. And in the spirit of that, I'm in full support of criminal prosecution of anyone who makes false allegations. Full support of that. That undermines the entire system itself. So yes, we're going to hold those accountable who are guilty of the harassment, but we're also going to hold accountable anyone who might make a false claim. Instead of taking that approach, I'm going to overcorrect and avoid you altogether and push you out of the workplace altogether to punish you for even bringing this to light in the first place, to punish you for making this a thing, to punish you for forcing me to check myself and my boundaries. This is your punishment. Oh, now I'm just afraid to be around women altogether. That's an overcorrection. So again, I know people will get tangled up in the example, but there couldn't be a more perfect example. Some other examples of overcorrection include if you're dealing with someone who tends to interrupt you a lot and you say to them, maybe for the first time, hey, can I finish my sentence? Hey, would you let me speak? And they, as an overcorrection, completely stop talking. This is going to be your silent treatment. Or you'll clearly have completed your sentence and you're waiting for a response from them and they're just sitting there quietly, either looking at you or quietly over the phone, not saying a word, waiting to be told when they can speak. That is an overcorrection. Narcs can't take feedback other than yay and amen. And if you say anything to them other than you're awesome, they tend to overcorrect to fix the problem, and it will strike you as so ridiculous that you'll wonder why you engage with this childish person at all. Because these are usually adults that do this. I've never really seen overcorrection out of children. Either that or I'm just not thinking of a good example. But I've never really seen an overcorrection out of a child. It's only adults that I've seen do this. They tend to overcorrect as opposed to just making that one gentle, slight correction. Can you imagine being a coach of this person on some sort of sports team, what that would look like? A player that constantly overcorrects as opposed to just making that one slight correction that makes not only their play better, but the whole game go better overall, because they're so insulted and so offended by whatever feedback you gave them that they do not only what you asked, but then some in order to punish you for having the nerve to give the feedback in the first place. So that's where we are. I hope this has helped illustrate this concept of overcorrecting. I'm sure you guys will come up with more examples of this principle. It is very effective and very, very frustrating to deal with because you know that they're doing too much in reaction to whatever it is that you told them or said to them. And the ultimate goal of them behaving that way is to get you to not critique their behavior at all, get you to not critique them or what they do at all, because you know that the reaction to whatever you say is going to be so over the top that it actually reaches the level of immature. Take care, you guys. Looking forward to the conversation down in the comment section. Hope you're all doing well. And as always, I grant you the permission to exist. Bye-bye.